barely even wet your whistle.
They don't. I told my wife about it. She goes, "What?"
Yeah, but I think that they need a road because he doesn't have a vehicle.
You need to,
Anything will help.
yeah.
So we
Make a command decision this evening. Turns out Ruth already made the decision for me, so I feel good.
That helps. No, don't feel that way.
Let's not go beyond that. Once that's done, let's not do any more than we have.
Steve will get sat back down in a minute here. You guys all ready? Or make sure Steve was good. Okay. Are you ready, Jamie? Okay. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Please rise and remove your hats for the invocation.
Heavenly Father, you are the captain and we are your crew. As we sail against the tide that impedes our way in an effort to gain financial stability, help us solve the many problems before us while continuing to provide for the needs of our citizens in the town. Be with us as we navigate through shallow and turbulent waters. Give us the ability to make wise and fruitful decisions. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Ms. Lewis, may we have the roll call?
Happy New Year, everyone. Happy New Year. Councilmember McKee.
Here.
Councilmember Turner.
Here.
Councilmember Wojcik.
Here.
Councilmember Hatch.
Here.
Councilmember Best.
Here.
Vice Mayor Croft.
Here.
And Mayor Marley.
Here. Our first item of business is introductions, presentations, and proclamations. And I have a presentation of the Government Finance Officers Association Budget Award for fiscal year 2014 and 2015. And if I could please have Joe Duffy, Cindy Sandlin, and Kat Lordy come up front, please. Do you have a microphone available? I'm sorry to hear that. Anyway, the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada is pleased to announce that the town of Chino Valley, Arizona has received the GFOA's Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for its budget. The award represents a significant achievement by the entity. It reflects the commitment of the governing body and staff to meet the highest principles of governmental budgeting. In order to receive the budget award, the entity had to satisfy nationally recognized guidelines for effective budget presentation. These guidelines are designed to assess how well an entity's budget serves as, number one, a policy document, number two, a financial plan, Number 3, an operations guide. And 4, a communications device. Budget documents must be rated proficient in all 4 categories and the 14 mandatory criteria within those categories in order to receive the reward. And you folks have made Joe look good in this. Thank you. All right. Can we have a round of applause for Congratulations. And get their shot. Joe and I are just here because we're eye candy. There you go, Joe. Our next item, excuse me, is call to the public. Call to the public is an opportunity for the public to address the council concerning a subject that is not on the agenda. Public comment is encouraged. Individuals are limited to speak for 3 minutes. Total time for call to the public may be up to 30 minutes per meeting. Council action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date, or responding to criticism. I had a request earlier this last week for an individual wished to speak to call to the public and wanted an extended length of time. And so Mr. Freeman, if you would, please come up. And while Mr. Freeman's coming up, I'd like to thank the members of our agricultural and business community who came here tonight. Mr. Freeman and I were talking about it's nice to have some new faces here, and hopefully we'll be able to open some lines of communication. So, Mr. Freeman.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Norman Freeman, and I reside full-time in the town of Chino Valley at 1172 and 1096 East Road 3 South. I have a prepared statement I want to read into the record, and from my days of having to sit on your side and getting beat up by the public, I brought my own clock. Chino Valley, the situation we're in now wasn't caused by any one person in this room. I want to make that clear before I start into my statement. We're all here to try to solve the problem. And however, the situation I'm about to convey to you is a serious one. And with that, I will start. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for this opportunity to speak. When I spoke with the mayor about my comments tonight, he graciously granted extra time, but he cautioned me about being overly critical. I really thought about that a lot. I sure don't want to be personally critical of anyone, but if we can't be critical of policies and performance, then we really aren't interested in increasing economic development. To me, it is a failure to be critical that has gotten Chino Valley in the position it is in today. And as we all know, being silenced for criticizing government is anti-American. In the past, we failed to be critical of development plans, experts' recommendations, and staff advice. We were told that the town would make millions off of development, and we'd have the rare opportunity to have developers pay for a sewage treatment plant. Here we are today. Where are the millions? Who paid for the plant? But that's history. More recently, we were told that unless we passed Prop 431, the town would go bankrupt. We wouldn't have water to fight fires and new businesses wouldn't come here. 431 didn't pass. Afterwards, I was a little surprised to read the mayor's comment in the newspaper that, well, failure of the bond means we won't fix some roads and it's not the end of the world. Where was the bond language about roads? What happened to the sky is falling rhetoric that scared voters? When year after year promises or rhetoric have no connection to reality, somebody needs to be critical, and somebody needs to be held accountable. Despite my opposition to 431, I met with town employees, council members, and public supporters to flesh out the issues, and not one person was able to answer questions about the details. I was perplexed to hear supporters argue that a new tax would draw business. And I guess I'll start there. What draws business? Low taxes, certainty, predictability, efficiency, simplicity, and sensibility. A straightforward code not subject to the discretion of current or future town employees, timely action by town employees with a can-do attitude, and successful businesses also draw new businesses. I just received an 18-page letter from the town engineer where he says a town code provision does not apply to my property use and that the code is very complex, but he is going to interpret the complex language in a manner that would apply to my use. What is this really about? It's a story I call Death by Toilet. It asks how Chino can hope to draw retail merchants, entertainment venues, restaurants, and industry when it takes months, if not longer, dozens of pages of code, ad hoc interpretations, a 20-page fee schedule, endless committees, and suggested meetings with experts to build an indoor toilet. I happened to run into him here at Town Hall. I asked if I was ever going to get a response to my letter. He said he was working on it. For 3 months, I pressed him further. He told me that it says it is up to his discretion and that he is raising the bar by requiring pavement. I said I wanted to raise the bar by going from porta potties to real toilets. A few days later, I was copied on an email from the town manager saying that we need to look at a category my property use fits in so the town can help us comply. Pat Klingman already did that 5 years ago. I skipped over a page. But now, because I inquired about a toilet, I am to be subjected to a new round of scrutiny. Apparently, the goal is to make agricultural activities commercial. In the rational world that we used to live in, we wanted to encourage local agriculture, especially those using sustainable practices, understanding that the profit is not the same on a pumpkin as it is on a commercial product like an iPhone. And there is a growing war on horse activities. We've decided to move our agribusiness out of Chino Valley. On January 4th, Lynn posted a 2-page letter on the Equistar Facebook page detailing our experience with the town and announcing the cancellation of operations here. Coincidentally, on January 8th, we received the 18-page letter from the engineer. The letter tells us that although the code does not address us at all, under his discretion, we may chip seal the parking lot instead of paving it. Seriously, who chip seals irrigated farm fields? How do I compete against competitors in neighboring communities who do not have to deal with nonsensical requirements in order to improve their facilities? And now the town wants to change our use category so it can regulate me more? How is that certainty, predictability, efficiency, simplicity, and sensibility? How does that inspire me or anyone else to want to invest here? The story on all of this began in 2010. It took us nearly a year to get a conditional use permit to hold community horse shows on our horse property. We paid the fees, and over the course of a year, Pat Klingman, Development Services Director at that time, came to our farm and saw everything we did. She found that we were within our ag zoning to market and sell produce in the manner we were, and that the horse show CUP had nothing whatsoever to do with our ag events. After the technical review meeting, which was before the neighborhood meeting, which was after my neighborhood mailing, which was after my preliminary meeting, which was before my planning meeting, which was before my planning and zoning meeting, which was before my town council meeting, the town engineer mentioned that I would have to pave my parking lots if I pulled a building permit for anything else in the future. I didn't think much about that at the time. On the morning of the council meeting to approve our CUP, Pat told us we would have to cede irrigable farmland to the town in order to get council's approval. And if we didn't agree, she asked if we wanted our item pulled from the agenda. We refused to cede the land, and we took it up with council. My statement to council that night was, why would I pay you to regulate me more? I'd rather not have the CUP as I get no value from it. Luckily, council unanimously approved the CUP without requiring us to cede the land. Again, all this just to hold community horse shows on an ag-zoned property. So over the next couple of years, attendance at the farm grew. We had to rent more tents and a larger restroom trailer. We believed it would be more cost efficient and nicer for our guests to build a permanent restroom facility. Recently, during casual conversations with town employees, they confirmed that the engineer would want us to pave the parking lot. It became important last August when we discovered we would have to pay much more for our restroom trailer this year. We informally asked the current Development Services Director about the paving issue. She checked and confirmed again that it would be required. Our parking lots, our farm fields, used for parking occasionally during our horse shows and on 4 weekends in October. Otherwise, they are fields where we grow produce, rotate crops, or turn out horses. The fields are irrigated farmland. You cannot replace that in an AMA. Since we rotate crops and activities, all of these fields at one time or another have been parking lots. And that's why on September 15th of last year, I sent the letter to the engineer asking where specifically in the code it said that if I submit an application for a building permit, I would have to pave the parking lot. September and October came and there was no response, and I was forced to rent that expensive trailer in October. So, a toilet has led to the death of 2 successful agribusinesses here in Chino. Ask Bonfire, Maverick, the Shell Station, the Days Inn, Olson's, local farriers, veterinarians, horse trainers, horse boarding facilities, whether loss of Equistar horse shows will impact them. Ask businesses who make more money and employ more people in October, and employees who count on a job to buy Christmas presents for their families, whether the loss of the Pumpkin Festival will impact them. Ask the police officers that we employ. Ask the many high school students whose first job was at Freeman Farms, and they have used me as a reference, and I gladly give them that so they can move on to better things. Yes, there needs to be scrutiny and criticism of the town code and fee schedule, of the policies and actions of town personnel, and of the budget, and in the past, the backroom deals that get this town into more debt. If you want more tax dollars, make it easier to do business here. If you want agribusiness, then understand agriculture. If you want to make money from permits, then issue them. Don't send people through an endless process of bureaucratic review and suggested consultations with so-called experts. Look around this room. Anyone who has managed to run a successful business in this town is an expert. And these are the experts that are called in and day out to step up and give back to this community. They sponsor events, they give charitable contributions. They are really involved in our community, and they do it, and they continue to do it. So if you're willing to allow a group of business owners and agricultural interests, the real experts, who have already invested in this town, to steer a code revision process, I am happy to be a part of that. Just schedule it on your next agenda. If you prefer the status quo, fine, but it's definitely time for us all to be critical.
You bet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You bet. Thank you. I know this is unusual, but thank you. It was funny. Mr. Freeman and I were speaking earlier, and he said, "Mayor, I'm frustrated," and I said, "Good. I'm frustrated too." I said, "The town code has been a sticking point with me for quite a few years, and hopefully now that we've got some of the bigger
Mayor.
items out of the way." Yes, ma'am.
Can I interrupt to say that you
Yes, ma'am.
unfortunately are not permitted by the open meeting law to comment?
I'm not, okay. Well, rewind that part of the tape, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. She keeps me out of jail, so far so good. Any others for call to the public? Okay. No other for call to the public, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Ms. Smiley. Call to the public is now closed. Response to the public is an opportunity for the mayor to inform the public about how town officials addressed matters raised during call to the public at a previous meeting, and we don't have any response to the public from our last meeting. Current events, summaries, and reports. This item is for information only. The mayor, any council member, or town manager may present a brief summary or report of current events or ask a staff member to provide the same. Presentation on information requested by the mayor and council will be made and questions answered. No action will be taken. Do we have any committee reports? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor, council, public, I attended as the town's representative the meetings held at YRMC. The committee that we're appointed to makes the choice of the board members to replace board members who are leaving. We were privileged to see quite a presentation from the CEO and CFO regarding all of the changes that they are facing in terms of Medicare. And along with us were the 4 applicants for 2 positions. The next mandatory meeting is in February and one in March, where we will make the decision.
Okay, thank you. Any others on this side, committee meetings? Any committee meetings here? Okay, thank you. Mr. Smith, did you have a status report?
Mayor, we had a very enjoyable and quiet holiday season, and we were back in the saddle and operating under a normal schedule and looking forward to the new year.
Cool, thank you. I have a letter that was sent to the mayor and town council, which I'm pretty sure I can read. Says, I live in Chino Meadows on Chino Road. The town recently patched the corner on Flint and Chino. It needed doing very badly, but the patch was done very expertly and is holding up well. Thank you. And it's one of our citizens, so I wanted to read that. And then also my mayor's report from back during the holidays. I was requested to read it again because folks have had a lot of questions on the bond election results. So please bear with me if you read this in the paper already. It says, approximately 1 year ago, the Chino Valley Town Council and staff began looking for a possible solution to the ongoing drain of the town's general fund by the town's water and sewer enterprise funds. Monies which could have been used for road repair, recreation, or other programs were being used to pay operations and maintenance costs in these 2 funds with no foreseeable end in sight. Although recent rate increases had provided some relief, a permanent solution was needed. For the Sewer Enterprise Fund, the proposed solution was to refinance the wastewater treatment plant, thus completing the purchase and placing the plant entirely under the town's control. The plant, which had been voted on by the town citizens in 2005, had been financed by an alternative method which was based on projected growth in the town. For the water system, the proposed solution was to expand the customer base by purchasing the City of Prescott's distribution piping and customer base in Chino Valley, thus lowering water bills for Prescott's Chino customers and expanding the service area for the Chino water system. Your council realized that these were huge investments, but they also realized that the general fund could not continue to subsidize the other funds indefinitely. For these types of system purchases, the traditional tools are either revenue bonds, where the system pays for itself, or general obligation bonds, where the public pays for the system. Both have their advantages and disadvantages. The main disadvantage of the revenue bond is that it's a smaller instrument and therefore not as effective in quickly providing relief to the town. The main disadvantage of the general obligation bond is that asking people who are already oppressed by their federal government to pay even more taxes is never a popular decision. To their credit, the town council took the difficult road and on May 13th, 2014, voted unanimously to place the GO bond before the voters in the November election. This allowed the town citizens to decide their own future. On November 4th, the citizens of Chino Valley overwhelmingly voted the bond down. Unfortunately, the demise of the bond didn't cause the subsequent demise of the debts. The task remaining before the council now is how to address these ongoing costs and still maintain the quality of rural life that our citizens have come to expect. Chris Marley, Mayor of Chino Valley. Our next item is our consent agenda. All items listed below are considered to be routine and may be enacted by one motion. Any council member may request to remove an item from consent agenda to be considered and discussed separately. Are there any folks on this side want to remove any consent items? Any on this?
C, please.
Yes, ma'am. C. Okay. Item C is removed from the consent agenda. Are there any others that need to be removed? Okay. Ms. Lewis, could you please read consent agenda items A and B?
6A, consideration and possible action to accept the December 9th, 2014 regular meeting minutes. B, consideration and possible action to accept the December 16th, 2014 regular meeting minutes.
The chair would entertain a motion.
Move to approve consent agenda items A and B.
Second it.
Okay, a motion and 2 seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Moving on to action items. Our first action item is item 6C. Mr. Duffy, you got your award and you get to come back.
That's right.
All right.
Mr.
Yes,
Duffy, may I go ahead?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My particular question pertains to the issues of the Water Enterprise Fund and the Sewer Enterprise Fund on pages,
I think it's page 4 of the report.
yeah. You're showing Highway User Fund at the top, and then Water Enterprise Fund and the Sewer Enterprise Fund.
2455. Page 2455?
2455.
Hold on a minute, I'll look at the bottom here. It's page 4
Yes.
and 24 of 55. It's 4 of his report and 24 of 55. And I just, under the Water Enterprise Fund, the transfers in are 91,000, last time 116,000. You show a decrease, is that correct, in water revenues during that period of time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
There's,
if we go down to the Sewer Enterprise Fund, where did the transfers in come through?
actually, we didn't budget this fiscal year to transfer anything into the Sewer Enterprise Fund.
Okay, so where did the transfer in came from on this one?
On the Water Enterprise Fund, that comes
Right.
from the Capital Improvement Fund.
From the Capital Improvement Fund?
Yes.
Okay. And then we go to the Sewer Enterprise Fund, there are no transfers in. It is running without transfers in, is that correct?
That's right. We're using their fund balance, actually their carryover, to cover their loss.
Okay, that would be my question, that's all.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Duffy? No? Okay, thank you. The chair would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve consent agenda item Charlie, C.
Okay.
Second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action item 7A, consideration and possible action to spend up to $46,775 of contingency funds to fund a full-time human resources director position for fiscal year 2014-15. Position will be included in fiscal year 2015-16 budget. Ms. Gretman.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As many of you are aware, we have not had a Human Resources Director since March of 2011, which is almost 4 years ago. A reorganization was adopted in May of 2011, creating a Human Resources Analyst position who reports to the General Services Director. Part of that restructuring was to the town's efforts to try and be creative in how we could, with limited resources, still staff positions. And although the functions have been fulfilled over the last several years, it hasn't been as robust as it probably could be. So we're recommending that, and it was in the town manager's goals for this next year to have this position filled. So this is a directorship position that we're asking to be filled for this fiscal year, and we'll include it in the budget for next year. This year we're up here in front of you because we're asking for it out of contingency.
Okay,
So
thank
do you have questions on the position?
Any questions? I know the town council has been, we've gone over the need for having that as a separate position. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Can you clarify, you're looking for 46 grand here, right? But that only carries till between now and June,
That's correct. That's with
June 30. But what is the annual range max?
The range is 79 to 103, 79,000 to 103.
103, okay.
It's on our website if you wanted to look up the position. We've had 31 applicants that had filled out all the information as far as the application with resume and cover letter. We've had more than that, but they didn't complete all the paperwork. And I did want to note that we also will be, it's not in the agenda item because it's not necessary to be in front of council for this, but we will be doing some construction to create an office and an administrative space to make room for everybody. Just so you know, when you come in, you'll see some construction being done. And
Okay, all right, thank you. Yes,
I
ma'am?
just want to clarify for the public, this position answers directly to the town manager.
That's correct.
And no one else, just the town manager.
That's correct.
Although, of course, we work with the other managers.
correct.
That's
But
correct.
reports to the manager, correct?
You bet. And as Ms. Gritman pointed out, that was one of our goals for our town manager, to secure that position. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
When I saw the salary range of $79,220 to $103,944, almost $104,000, we were out of town last week down in Havasu, and their town is about 52,000 people. We're here at a little under 11,000. Their salary range was started at 53, ours starts at 79. And their high was 93,000, and our high is almost 104,000. Can you explain why, with our lower population, we should be paying more than towns with higher populations who are paying less?
I can't explain to you how Lake Havasu City got to their salaries, but I can tell you that we had a comp and class study done about 2.5 years ago. And at that time, we did not have this position. But one of the things that's included in the services that we have through the company that performed our comp and class study was to give him job descriptions like the HR director, and he internally rates it and externally. So that was the salary he recommended. But at the time we had our comp and class done, I mean, they picked communities that were like communities to ours, and that's where the salaries were created.
Okay.
Do we have to follow those guidelines, or could we put it down to where it's a little easier to come up with?
Well, you do come across problems with internal equity then, because the positions now have all been reclassified, I guess, I don't know a better word to use, 2.5 years ago, where they were considered to be brought up to external and internal market standards. To take a position now and change that, I mean, I think just to do one position would not be responsible for our whole compensation plan.
Thank you.
But that's not my decision. I mean, ultimately, it's coming out of contingency, so that's just my recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the reason you do class studies is it's a market issue. Who's out in the market? What are they paying? How can we get the best people here to do what needs to be done? Yeah, we can lower the salary, but we're not going to get the best employee that has a seasoned HR director that can look at some of our policies and can revise them, and they can save us a lot of money in the future on possible suits and things from employees. You really have to pay for the quality of employee that you get.
All right, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I would agree with Mr. Croft. That's one of the, not to forget, we haven't really had someone with that specialty in several years, and there are a lot of things that need to be brought up and corrected. It's going to be a big job for someone.
It will. It's only been marginally done over the last 4 years. I mean, we've dotted the i's and crossed the t's, but there's some things out there that they can do. And Ms. Hatch, you were on the council when we had our comp and class done, so. Anything else?
Okay. All right, thank you. Discussion among council? Any? All right. Chair would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve up to $46,775 of contingency funds to fund a full-time human resource director position for FY 2014-15.
Second it?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item B, consideration and possible action to adopt resolution number 15-1053 in support of Arizona Sunshine 2015, a free health services event in the Quad Cities area to be held June 17th and 18th. And Did any of you folks have any questions from Ms. Griffin?
Yeah, I have
on this? You do?
I have some real problems. I spoke with the town manager of Prescott Valley. To begin with, the summary has an error in it. There's no longer a Tim's Toyota Center. It's Prescott Valley Events Center, although it's correct in the resolution. I spoke with Larry Tarkowski, and he said his council decided to give a certain amount of time, but they also required, by contract with Sunshine, that they be named as an additional insured. And I spoke with our attorney about that, and that is something we must require if our name is going to be on it. Additionally, this is a weekend, and this like services concerns me. I've been hearing a lot about us supporting volunteer activities and then paying people overtime instead of using volunteers. And so I think we need to look at this much more carefully. We need the language adding us as an additional insured. If our name is on it, we need to make sure they add us to the policy. We need to define more specifically and put limits on this. What specifically do they need? And we should put a no greater than. I support this just like anyone else, but it's very dangerous to leave a door open like that. If we're going to do something like that, we need to cover the town. You know, our name's on it, something happens, we're going to get named right along with everyone else. If we're on their policy, they have to cover it.
Any of the other council?
Well, I would just agree that the insurance aspect of it is always important. In anything else that I've been involved in, whether it be, you know, such as the recreational foundation activities and things, it's something that we have to do.
Okay.
Suggest we table this for the next meeting.
Suggest we table it till the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
And bring back those issues that,
Yeah, if we might find out more specifically what they're interested in and try to lay the line out and reach
here's
an
a gentleman
agreement.
right here.
Yeah.
Good.
I was going to say, he's
If you
here. I
would,
just want to
please
make a
grab a
comment.
seat.
The only staff that we had discussed utilizing was a police officer who would be on duty, so he or she would already be covered under our insurance, et cetera.
And see, that also concerned me because I asked Mr. Tarkowski, if we supply a police officer, who does he answer to? You know, what is the chain of command in that kind of a situation? So I think we need to have a better definition
Right.
of what is, you know, what is specifically needed. You know, the other thing too that I thought about doing, and I don't know if the transit is willing to do this, I personally would be willing to donate money to have the transit take a bus or something like that, you know, so that, you know, we need to know more specifically where we're headed with this.
Right. They did ask us to work with the transit company to arrange transportation. Mr. Dirkson's here. He is the Chino Valley representative for the project, so maybe you can answer some questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay, first of all, as I said in earlier presentations that you were not here at, we are not looking for any cash benefits. We threw out the idea of a police officer if necessary. It looks like right now the town of Prescott Valley is covering those needs for us. So we were looking to have sponsorships like took place in Oakland and San Francisco to give the discretion to the town manager as to what would be appropriate to do. Insurance is in place, will be in place with Prescott Valley. We are not asking the town of Chino Valley, nor did we ask the county who passed its resolution the last week, because the county is, I mean, Supervisor Brown is here. We are not asking for support, we're asking for approval, access to, through your offices, to people who could be benefited by this without violating privacy issues. I mean, that's what we're looking for. You have access to our target population, which is the homeless, the indigent, people with needs, veterans with needs. We don't have a way to locate those. That's the kind of assistance we're asking for. We had originally thought a police officer would be helpful. Deputy Brooks, our security chairman, is saying we may have all we need with the town of Prescott Valley. I mean, I'll defer to Deputy Brooks as opposed to me as an attorney trying to say what the needs of security are. But we were hoping to give the discretion to the various town officers and county officials to meet the needs as was seen fit by those governmental entities for the event.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dirksen.
Yeah,
Ms.
I think we still need the insured. If our name is on there, we need to be added as an additional insured, because if we're supporting something, you need to add us to your policy. It's all too easy. They go down the line, you as an attorney know that, they go down the line and name everyone, and that should be a minimal agreement with you. in the town.
I can look at the underwriter directly, but I think they're morely concerned with the town of Prescott Valley, because it's a liability insurance policy for the use of the facility.
Yeah, well, our name's on it. You need to, if we're going to use our resources, we need to have that as well. It's pretty standard for us,
Okay.
when we have volunteer activities.
All right, thank you. You did not form that in the form of a motion.
I'm going to make a motion that we table this to the next meeting, and so everything, when it comes back, we have all this covered, anything that needs to be done.
Okay.
If we can work with you on all these issues, so we can get this straightened out, and we can get this approved. And this is a good project, it needs to be done.
You bet.
We need our folks involved in this town, so we need to know how to do it and get it done.
Second the motion.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dirksen, but we've got a motion on the floor, and we've got a second to table it to our next meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I assume Mr. Dirksen still has an office in town. Hopefully, we can work out any questions we have with him so that this is seamless when it comes before us at the next meeting. Item C, consideration and possible action to adopt ordinance number 15-792, amending the Town of Chino Valley, Arizona Town Code Title 5 Public Works, Chapter 51 Utility Fees by amending sections 51.250 Utility Service Deposits and 51.261 Fees and Assessments Due, clarifying termination of utility services. Mr. Gritman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I can present portions of this item. I'm going to look to Phyllis to talk about the legal sides of what we're doing here, what this is. But in short, what we're doing is just clarifying how we operate. The sewer system is a non-metered system. We can't tell whether somebody is flushing or not. Somebody who's on another water company, somebody who's on a well, we have no way of knowing whether service is being utilized or not. It's a non-metered service. What this ordinance does is it brings us into kind of pretty much compliance with what other municipalities do in our situation, which I'll tell you there aren't many. Most cities control both the water and the sewer systems. Some have private water companies operating within them, and when they do, they have a policy that is identical to Chino Valley's, what this ordinance is. With that, I'll answer any questions, and if you have legal questions, I'll look to Phyllis to answer those sides.
If it please the council, I'd like to go to Ms. Smiley and say, Ms. Smiley, do you have anything to add to this before we formulate questions? Nothing.
Only if you have questions.
Okay, only if you have questions.
Yeah.
You're not going to volunteer anything?
Well, I mean, like Ron said, where there is an unmetered service, there has to be certain practices, and most cities that, if not all cities, that have an unmetered sewer service where they are not the local water company as well, will charge, once service is established, they will charge the base fee at least until the property is changed into something else and there's no sewer needed. So as long as there's a toilet hooked up to the system, whether or not that toilet is being flushed, the sewer charge does not go away. So it will transfer from one person to another, from one property owner, from one lessee, whatever, however that account is set up. But it will not cease to be charged. And my, excuse me, my understanding is that that has been the town's practice. And it was called into question in a recent situation, and there was an interpretation made by a hearing officer that the town code did not allow for it. We disagree, but the hearing officer's decision is not appealable. So what we're doing is we're changing the code to clearly allow that. And I think I'll stop talking now,
Okay, all right.
before I
Thank you.
completely lose my voice.
Okay, thank you. And so what we'll do is we'll entertain questions now. Yes, sir.
Are we saying that Prescott and Prescott Valley has an ordinance that allows them to charge when they get a request to discontinue?
Prescott and Prescott Valley control the water system on their site, so they can control whether the water gets turned off or not. Chino Valley doesn't do that.
They control the water, but they're still unmetered on the sewer side. Our problem is that we don't know how much water is going in, so we don't know how much sewage going back out.
All sewer connections are unmetered. There is no sewer
believe that.
meter that is in the utility industry. So all sewer services are unmetered.
But if somebody calls you up or sends you a letter and says discontinue my service until further notice, and you go out and put an elder valve in, you know that that system is not being used.
No, that's not true. It's frequently where the elder valves are tampered with, and they're actually cut out where the cap is left in place. And again, we have no way of knowing whether that elder valve is actually functioning or not. We go out and we do inspections. We go out and check, the caps are all still there. But frequently, when we go out and pull them, we find that they've been cut off.
Cut off? They're in a pipe with a padlock on the top, right?
Plumbers have the ability to run cutters down the pipes, and it cuts them off.
Oh, okay, I can see what.
Hopefully that's not on YouTube. All right, thank you.
Again, I mean, the ongoing problem of how we operate our water and sewer system isn't going to be fixed by this.
Right.
All we're trying to do is clarify something the way that the lien officer interpreted it. That's all we're trying to do.
You bet.
Our operations of the water and sewer system are problematic because of how this whole thing was structured.
It's very much a hybrid system, correct? Yes, ma'am. you had
Yeah, I have a
question.
problem with the Public Works Director, with the approval of the town manager, shall be authorized to waive all or any portion of deposit fees, water and sewer monthly fees, late fees, and other miscellaneous fees. There need to be some rules about how and when those are waived for consistency purposes, not just a blanket waiver like that. People ought to have the expectation of being treated equally, and leaving it in the hands of one person without some type of regulation or guidelines, I think, is a mistake.
Okay, thank you.
agree.
All right, yes, sir.
Account holder, does that mean the owner of the property?
Yes.
So the
Yes.
only way that anything like that would be done, waiving past fees, is if the home is sold, a new owner is starting out fresh.
Yes, and I can assure you, we do not waive fees.
Well,
We
I-
don't, the authority isn't exercised like that. All it is we're providing an administrative method to allow people to, a lot of times, these fees come out during escrow transfer, and if we start implementing, as Mr. Freeman pointed out earlier, long, drawn-out government processes, escrow closures are going to get also long and drawn out. So, but we'll do whatever the council would like.
What I wanted to bring out there was just so that everybody in the public knows, this has come up before, and these are not just tenants. Okay, they are not responsible for the sewer bill, the owner is.
Right.
So the only way this would even come into play is if the property changes ownership.
That's right.
Okay.
Did Ms. Smiley? Oh, you've communicated with us on just what Mr. Turner was talking about as far as whether it's the landlord or the tenant? Have you not?
There was a period of time when the
Yeah.
tenant had the,
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a difficult question
Okay.
because we're in the midst of revising all of Chapter 5,
Okay.
and there's state law also involved that recently changed as to who is responsible for or who can be held
Right.
responsible for payment of the utility fees. And what it comes down to is whoever signs the contract or whoever contracts for the service is the responsible party. The town may, I don't want to mistake here, but I believe that the town may require a property owner to, no, I'm not sure. But whoever is responsible is the contracting party. I can research that and get back to you with an answer as to whether it's the owner or the tenant, if the tenant is the contracting party. Generally, it's the owner.
Okay, okay. The reason I was asking is you had sent us a communication dealing with that, and so I wanted our public to understand that you had advised us on that. That's been taken into account in our, yes, sir.
We have what, like 655 households that are both on Chino water and sewers?
I don't think it's over 600, but it's.
I thought it was like 655, something like that.
I think it's a little, it's
All
under
right.
600, I know. But we
Whatever
have
the number is.
It's primarily Highlands Ranch and Bright Star are the areas where we have both water and sewer.
But in that case, you have metered. Would this ordinance apply to them?
Yes, it would.
If they called you up and said discontinue, you would do it and you wouldn't charge them?
No, what this will do is this will remain the base fee on the sewer. That fee will continue to assess and accrue. Yes. This ordinance will change that policy.
But it won't totally discontinue their sewer line, their sewer charge,
It will assess the base fee,
which is,
the monthly fee, the $48, whatever that is right now.
so in their case, their bill every month is the base fee plus whatever their water usage is based on the water meter coming in.
Yes. But I thought you were asking if they terminated service.
Pardon?
I thought you were asking if they terminated service. Because if they terminated service, they wouldn't be using water
Exactly. But they'd still get a bill.
for the base fee for sewer and making it consistent across our entire system, then yes.
And if they were using the water, they would get the base bill for the sewer plus their usage.
Yes, plus their regular sewer bill,
Okay.
or water bill, sorry, yes.
And as Mr. Gritman has pointed out, this, because we have somewhat of a hybrid system, it makes it difficult. That was one of the things when I came into office, I couldn't understand why if I turned my propane off, my bill stops. If I turn my electricity, the bill stops. But with sewer, the bill continues because we're.
You could do it with
hooked up to the
water, because
system.
they're all metered services. And
Right.
we can control whether that meter is functioning or not.
Right.
Sewer, it doesn't work. There
Right.
is no meter for a sewer system.
Okay, all right, thank
The
you.
elder valves are the best that we do, but you can overcome them.
They're fallible. Okay, thank you. Any questions on this side? It's,
I had a
yes, ma'am.
clarification. I can think of a number of instances where the situation that Mr. Turner described is not the case. Somebody passes away, the house sits there for a while, may or may not be foreclosed on. It has been handled inconsistently in the past. However, this may be appealed, is that not correct, to a hearing officer? A decision of the water person may always be appealed to a hearing officer, is that not correct?
The lien, if the town is imposing a lien, that can be appealed.
Okay, so if somebody doesn't pay the back money that you are claiming they're owing, do you refuse to go ahead and do their service, or would you place a lien for the owing amount if somebody new comes in?
That's exactly what we do.
And so they would continue, they would get the service without paying the back money that perhaps somebody else accrued,
Well,
and you would place a lien.
yeah, there are restrictions under the state law of what we can charge when a new customer, from a previous customer, yes. So there are restrictions on there. And those are things that, again, Joe goes through and he can tell you what the numbers are, where he writes those off annually because they are not recoverable dollars. Our liens, the way that we do them now, we're no more than 60, 90 days at the most behind. So the amount that we have, I guess, hanging out there, if you will, the amount that is at threat is a relatively small amount. Typically, the liens are getting processed quite rapidly, very rapidly, at the close of escrow. We will literally get checks cut, and we do the lien releases on the very days that the escrows are closing.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
I'd like to take this opportunity to remind you and the town manager of what happened to me when I moved into this town, and there was a lien on my property because the previous owner had taken a loan out with them to pay the connection fee. No lien was placed on the property. There was no way for the title company to find that because it wasn't recorded. And as a result, I got stuck with paying a bill for $3,800, which I was told by a town employee, oh, that automatically transfers with the property. What? Nothing transfers automatically. Make me aware of that. But because I needed to get an attorney who told me, in fact, that attorney was here tonight, that it would cost me $5,000 to fight. You only owe $3,800 at this point. Even if you win, you lose.
Right.
So what is the limit on how much you can charge from a previous owner?
I don't know what the limit is, but you can rest assured that we do not, every property out there that has any amount owed on it through either the buy-in fee or the monthly fees, have had liens placed on those properties for the last 2.5, 3 years, ever since Mr. Beauvais has been performing that.
Just before I bought my place.
We timed it that way on purpose.
I did it, exactly, because I knew the town needed the money to pay all their high-paid employees.
As I said to you, this is not going to resolve the overall problems that we face in the operations of this water and sewer system. This is a problematic system. It just, so.
Okay,
Mayor
yeah,
Marley.
we're trying to deal with it a piece
Right.
at a time. Yes, sir.
I did want to offer as well, and we appreciated the example that Councilmember Wojcik brought to us. It was not something that we have run across in commonplace, but it was a very good example of an incomplete process and system. We have met with Yavapai Title, and we are coordinating with them to ensure that the title searches on property turn these liens up, and that they are part of the escrow process, and they are not left out. Now, we can't, as a town administration, ensure that the title company is going to come across everything, but we have done everything that we can do to ensure that it's easy for them to find the liens, that they're showing up in the escrow processes not as a surprise, but as an includable cost in the close.
You bet.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Even in that case, if there were not enough funds in a foreclosure to pay off the bank lien, it is not going to pay you, and it's not going to clear those liens, and somebody like Mr. Wojcik may get stuck with something. I just want to make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen. Those liens, the minute somebody pays $1 on those liens, you must have to refile them, as I understand.
That's right.
Or each month, you have to refile if the fees continue to go up.
We don't do that monthly. We do it about every 3 to 4 months. And that's what
Okay.
I'm saying. We're only about 3 to 4 months behind on any lien. We don't do them monthly.
And
Too
so
many
if you're
of them.
3 months behind and they pay all but the last 3 months,
Right.
are you going to let it go?
Yes, it minimizes the amount of liability that the town has, yes. That's
Yeah.
exactly what happens.
But it's not an easy process, putting those liens on that property.
No, it's
That's-
it's a time-consuming, it's a full-time job for Mr. Beauvais. And
This-
it's, it's a cumbersome process that we have here.
And this has been a gift that's just kept on giving, and we understand that. Mr. Wojcik, and then we need to get to a vote.
I just want to make another short comment. The problem in my situation was there was never a lien filed.
That's right.
And so the title company, I went back to my title people and asked them to put a claim in against the title insurance. They said there was no lien ever filed.
That's right.
How, it came up as a clean title.
And that's why we
So-
have changed our processes completely. Everybody who has any dollar owed there's a lien in place, all of
Okay.
them.
Thank
Let me
you.
just get a
Because
clarification.
we're trying to get our i's dotted, yes.
So if somebody signed off to pay off that 10 grand for the hookup fee,
Mm-hmm.
and you put the lien on the property, but there were not sufficient funds in a foreclosure to pay that off, what would you do,
Well,
hypothetically?
Well, I don't know about a foreclosure, because in a foreclosure, typically, I mean, we've never encountered it in a foreclosure. We have encountered those in bankruptcies. And what happens is, since we have the lower position liens, the judges have just done away with them. In which case then, I look to Joe and say, this is uncollectible now, write it off, get it off the books. So it has happened a few times. It's not that common. It has not happened in a foreclosure. It has happened during bankruptcies, though.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, cool. Thank you for your work on trying to get us to where we are consistent. This is huge. All right. The chair will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 15792, amending Chapter 51 of the Town of Chino Valley Town Code.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay. Do we need a call for division, Jamie, or did you catch all of those?
I believe I heard 2 nays.
It sounded like three.
Three.
but-
Three, 3 nays and 4.
Okay. If we don't need a call for division, we'll move on to item D. Review and discussion regarding the council appointments subcommittee's recommendations pertaining to the position description and selection process for the position of Planning and Zoning Commissioner, as well as proposed amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance, UDO Section 1.4, Planning and Zoning Commission, and possible action to direct staff to revise the procedural documents and draft an ordinance amending the Unified Development Ordinance, Section 1.4, Appointments Subcommittee. I believe the Vice Mayor is the chairman of that committee.
I am the chairman of that committee, and we were tasked by the council to go take a look at the appointments that we make and devise some way to make them a little more realistic, to perhaps better identify those folks that we'd like to appoint to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and identify some kind of training in the process. And that's what we have done, and it's presented in this item.
All right. Just a brief comment on my part before we take it to the rest of the council. I like that you added in on page 47 of 55, item 8, agree to abide by the town's code of ethics, town code chapter 35, and all other rules and regulations of the town. That encourages folks. Then they understand how we're to do business. Any questions from the council? Yes, ma'am.
I think they did an excellent job, but I think we need to leave ourselves a little space. For instance, the required training, I agree. If there is a Citizens Academy, maybe we should leave ourselves an out in case there isn't one within that 12-month period.
Yeah, I think that could be handled in the recommendation to the council.
Yeah, just say something like, if there is one within that time period, or something like that. That's, that would be my concern, that we backed ourselves into a corner in
We
case
put
they,
if available, or if scheduled, or...
if one is
If available.
scheduled.
If one is scheduled? Sure,
Yeah.
I don't have a problem, yeah.
And I guess the other thing is attend the meetings. Did we ever in the past have a percentage of the meetings? Or, I know the state law requires a hearing before you put them off, but I wonder, attending meetings is a very open-ended thing.
I think it's specified in the ordinance.
Is it?
I believe it's, thought it was on page 49 of 55.
Yeah. It's somewhere in the ordinance that says how many they can be discharged for.
Yeah, let me see that.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. or on page 52. Maybe it's not. Ruth?
Is Ruth made do you have a packet, the?
Mayor?
The Board of, there was a requirement of attending a certain number of meetings.
I must have missed it, but if it's there,
Maybe
please
I
point it
missed it,
out.
too. Maybe I
Mayor?
read it.
Mayor?
Yes,
Over
ma'am.
here.
Yes.
In the, let's see, it's on page
53.
50 of
There you go.
55, about halfway down the page, or beginning on the second paragraph, termination, colon, vacancy, is a requirement for a regular member of the commission
I see it there.
who's
yeah.
absent at
B.
3 consecutive meetings or a total of 4 meetings within any 1 year, period. Their seat is deemed vacant. This is similar to any number of cities throughout the state. And I have to correct something that Councilmember Hatch said. There is no state law requirement for a hearing before
You have to-
a commissioner is removed. You do not have to have.
Don't you have to give them notice and an opportunity
you do
before you
not.
take them off?
You do not. There is no property right to an appointed office where the person is appointed and serves at the pleasure of the council.
Okay,
thank
I would like to go over the code with that, because it's been pointed out to me that there may be, but we should talk about it then.
You two can pursue that.
Yeah,
in
we
private,
will.
Yes. All right, all right. Thank you. Thank you for the correction on that and for helping us find that. I was only 3 pages off. We'd have gotten there, so. Other questions or comments regarding this item? All right. The chair would now entertain a motion.
Let me get back.
Oh, wait, are we going to add that change in there
Yes.
if available?
He's
We'll add the
already
change
added
if
it, so-
scheduled.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the position description selection process and proposed UDO amendments and direct staff and/or subcommittee to use that, plus with the addendum if scheduled, and a review of the UDO to answer the questions from the council as far as your question.
The review of the UDO?
You've reviewed the UDO with the attorney.
Oh, okay, well,
We'll
that
be
was, they were
reviewing
going to do
state
that
law.
privately.
We'll do it, you don't need to do that.
Okay.
If there's a problem, we'll bring it up to you.
We'll just do the limits
Because-
as written
As amended.
As
and
amended,
amended if scheduled.
yeah,
Okay.
scheduled, yeah.
That
You
Second.
don't need to worry about that, we'll
Okay.
deal with it.
Do it
Yeah.
separate?
Thank you.
I didn't want to leave you out.
No, that's good.
We have a lengthy motion
Yeah,
and 2
lengthy
seconds.
motion and a confusing motion.
And, but that amendment was on page 47 of 55, required training item 1 was modified.
That deals with.
Yes, ma'am.
Just to clarify, this motion was not to approve the amendments to the UDO, correct?
Yes, that was included in.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I said,
I don't think there's been a public hearing on
Okay.
the ordinance
Let me
yet,
revise.
so I
my-
think that's a premature
Let me revise my.
motion.
No. This is not for adoption. This
Okay.
is discussion.
Okay, for discussion.
So can we go ahead and approve the other process, portion of it, other than the UDO?
Is that,
Attorney?
no?
There's
We
nothing
can't
to
do
approve.
anything.
All we
There's
did
no,
is-
there's no
It's not an
action.
action item,
No
it's
The-
discussion.
No, the agenda is review and discussion regarding.
there's no
So you can
motion.
direct staff, we
Yeah,
can make
yeah.
the changes that have been suggested, and then bring the language back.
Mayor?
We can do that. We can direct staff, correct?
Right.
Please, make the changes, all right? We're almost to my favorite item, item 10, okay? There's, there you go. We have no executive session scheduled, no action items resumed, and Mr. Wojcik, would you please do the honor for
I
us?
move that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion in 3 seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Great. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
I was so tired today.
That's a definite maybe.
Definite, sort of, kind of, maybe.
Yeah.